Regionals has concluded and our Worlds participants have been determined. Throughout the second week of the tournament, a single line was dominant across all regions. Taking a look here, sorting by win rate, we can see that this mech line, particularly from the Anima cash out, saw immense success, putting up, if we combine the two, about 30% win rate with still above 60% top 4 rate. Obviously, as mentioned, this was enabled mostly through Anima. However, throughout my investigations, I noticed that quite a few players sometimes opted into this line even from spots when they did not have Anima. Therefore, for today, we're going to be jumping in game with Hypno from the final lobby of the EMEA Regionals, one of the players who managed to secure one of those 5 world slots. And as we go, I will touch upon how we can also opt into this line when you do not exactly have the Anima cash out to play around. For right now, we have the Zoe and Mordekaiser also with the Nunu pair. Definitely can consider playing around these Vanguards with a Zoe. She can hold those LeBlanc items, LeBlanc one of the prominent lines, and also as we noticed, Vanguard ASOL is not the worst thing to consider, and we have a Rod definitely considering potential to lean in some form of an AP line. So a lot of players also flex around that Nami Karma as a roll down potential into this line. Otherwise, we're holding on to these 3 Primordian, a prime way for us to still generate Econ, can play into Master Yi, can play into a Quirky if we get a tempo, both of those lines requiring tempo. But we have that Rageblade already. Could become Nashor's JG if you wanted to maybe find some way to maybe play in Lysandra, but most likely not from this kind of opener. Most likely going to be some kind of a Rageblade Slam if we wanted to tempo. But we have not checked our Arbiter yet, so we're not sure as we do not have the Leona. Cursed Crown on 2-1 is something I am not very much a fan of, because you're not guaranteed to be carrying over that streak into stage 3. This should be taken only from immensely strong openers, and then I would still prefer than 3-2. Shimmer Scale Essence, generally good Econ Augment to consider around. This did get nerfed to get the Gambler's Blade on 7 rounds, but with Rageblade this is still decent, can provide you some econ. Best when you have an upgraded frontliner with a slam to go along with. Comeback Story does not have that many lines, does not have something like a Warwick from the last set. Now Zaya is playable, but probably the better low streak option we have right now, since Shimmer Scale does require a tempo. But we hit Fortune Strength. This is probably one of the strongest lost streak augments in the game right now. And we can pick our direction from the artifact that's offered for ourselves. We stick together if you value emblems highly, but I do not exactly like it as much. This attack speed buff is just a little too low, and Build a Bud could provide you some direction, but the tempo it provides has been just noted to be too low. We get Thresh's Lantern. This is generic good artifact to be playing around as, well, just pulling extra units on your board turns to be quite useful, especially if you can pull in something like a Morgana that when she gets the passive from her cast, I believe, that still works out. Otherwise, just pulling in extra frontliners for especially comms that can stall, something like LeBlanc, for example, that we might still be considering as an out from here, is quite strong. But if you're looking at the mech line, this is not exactly the ones that would be providing us that direction right away. Well, still great in the line, just because pulling extra frontliners we have, but we have that Leona picked up right now, so let's just check. If you wanted to play the LeBlanc, the attack speed bomb would be the best one to be considering right now. We do not have the Leona print. Generally, you would want to be picking up from 3 attacks gaining AP. Otherwise, every 4 seconds is good in early game, and we can utilize it as an econ generator right now, or 50 mana spent also if you wanted to commit to that line. But it seems that we're going to be trying to play around these Primordians for right now. We picked up our first round win, even though we have a quite weak of a board. I do not see ourselves tempoing in the rest of the lobby as we see. But speaking of artifacts, right, something like Auri's Aura is one that definitely would lock me in, considering that Aurelian line, as well as something like a Silver Dawn. Generically, any form of strong tank artifact could be considered. Varus's, for example, is quite decent, and Blighting Jewel as well, if I recall correctly, just because Aurelian has more tick damage, but our Blighting Jewel is also quite good in LeBlanc. But nonetheless, anything that can give you extra juice for this line is quite good. We queue into another open player, so we're going to be in this mixed streak kind of situation. It does not work exactly out for ourselves, as we're trying to actually lose streak with this augment and try to proc it as soon as possible, so we actually see the rest of our artifacts. Other ways, how you actually get into this line. Now let's use our time to touch upon that. After this god selection, we have Yari and Yasuo, and Yasuo is one of the better artifacts to be, gods to be considering. Cosmic Hex is amazing for your rerollers. If any reroll in this lobby sees this, they are extremely happy. Otherwise, 6 XP puts you off interval. This is good if you are playing from a loss streak, for example. Sometimes this full open situation and you could level on form 1 and cash it out. Or even for tempo purposes, sometimes you could do it. Remember, this does offset your leveling interval. For ourselves, if we are not committing to this Primordial, this Cosmic Hex is not too appealing, and in later stages of the game could be tricking. For the Aurelian, you would be generally looking for the Cryogenic Hex, the Stun Hex, and the Solar Hex. Those are the 3 best ones going to be picking up a tier, and still, it seems that we might have even timed out that we picked up this Cosmic Hex, just going to be placing it there. Maybe you can buff a Power Mech. Otherwise, how you can move into this line. Now, let's get into it. Stoneplate. Stoneplate, you definitely want to be first looking for the Mighty Mech items. Obviously, you want rods, you will want extra rods, but having the Stoneplate is a great early tempo slam in the early game, and you first want to be definitely prioritizing those Mighty Mech items. And if you can double down on those Stoneplate, and then you see that you have these extra rods, this is one way to go into it. Obviously, some people playing around something like Deadlier Caps or Continuous Conjuration, that can provide you with these extra rods, leaves you open for these AP outs. LeBlanc itself, as the adjacent line, can utilize up to like 5 rods, and Aurelian is similar. You definitely Death Cap is his best. Theoretically, Death Cap, JG, and then having the Void Staff and the Morellos onto your supporting unit, which is generally going to be a Karma, is the best way you can approach this line. If you're able to streak around those and see that you are going to be quite rich enough still to be able to 2-star these units on stage 4, then you are fine to be going for this line even without this massive loss streak. The reason why it's played so strong there on loss streak obviously synergizes greatly with Anima. It also has the possibility to carry a duo carry in form of an AD unit, which then can utilize these AD artifacts or AD Anima items. And it's quite stable on stage 4 due to the mechs taking up stage 2 unit slots, and especially now with the adjusted flexibility of playing around the Morgana, you can definitely be finding a way to stabilize in more situations than before. And it's just extremely stable due to the units taking up 2 slots, right? And you're concentrating your full power in there. Once you 2-star them, you're going to be definitely in a placement saving mode, and you can even heal up with this Fiora that nicely fits into the line. Even when you are not playing exactly for the standard version, you can sometimes, if you cash her out, still run her, obviously, to just heal up to 2 lives, and then you're fine to be making it to level 9. For ourselves right now, Heroic Grab Bag, our reroll, generically decent one. Well, one of the best, especially if you play 3-cost reroll, but on 3-2 or 4-2. Cybernetic Implants for your AD line, something like the Marauders can utilize this quite well, or Zaya. Cybernetic Coupling, great in something like a Space Groove, where you do not exactly gain a mana generation, but our ASOL does not really need that mana gen from that kind of a spot, in my opinion. But it seems to be the best option offered from ourselves, unless we're going to value Econ, right? We are investing into items, we are in this mixed streak, so I believe that we are chasing definitely some kind of an Econ option right here. Slammin' should be that we have already committed our items as well. Spreading Roots is a little bit of a gamble on stage 3. If you do not have direction, this is fine. It's a strong item augment to be considering, right, for tempo purposes. And while our last flip is most likely going to Epic Rolldown. Now, which one are we going to value more? Epic Rolldown is about 40 golden rolls, and Slammin' from this point on until our Rolldown would be providing us with about, this is 14 gold, then we have about 5 rounds, so this is just simply going to be more gold. And if we are playing from this hard stabilizing spot of playing around this Forged in Strength, then this is going to be more immense value for our spike timing. Otherwise, slamming obviously is going to have the long-term upside, and this is still interesting. Like we can see, obviously we saw a lot of weak players, and we are trying to lose these fights to proc our Forged in Strength, but we are still opting to play the strongest board. We're just respecting the lobby's tempo. We're trying to kill as many units as we possibly can. We are closing in on that 5 streak, which is where we actually start gaining the value from loss streaking, right? And only on 5 and 6 losses is where you rake in. Otherwise, going around, bouncing around these 3-4 losses, you are, I mean, you're making some gold, but it's not going to be super valuable. Another player here with Forging Strength Care Package also has gotten that Threshold Lantern, but I'm interested to see what they're playing into, because they have not committed to any form of a Stone Plates. We have opted to make our AP slams already. We have the Morello, have the JG, have the Voice Staff. That's going to be quite fine. Acceleration Hex, another one of those hexes that we were not too super excited about for this Aurelian line. I mean, it's fine. It still buffs up. It concentrates power into a unit that takes up 2 slots. But I think we're going to be getting a lot of free heroes though. So Do we want to align ourselves with Ahri or with Yasuo? Given that the hexes are not super appealing, we might consider Ahri just for that raw AP. Going to be going with it, find a mighty mech with another rod, and now we have this open anvil still that we want to, could ideally find another rod for the death cap, but we need to start be looking at these frontline items. We do not have an anima cash out for ourselves to fill out one of those slots. Generally, the like Linus's Lament is amazing. Radiant Field is also can be something you could be playing around. Otherwise, Annihilator is great into this line as a AP item. So we do not have that slot to be filling out for frontline. We definitely do not want to be rolling up with our mighty mech, having to take up 2 unit slots without a frontline item. You can see another nice interaction here that this Ornn, whenever pulled in by Tracious Lantern, does generate an item. Nicely here, going to be taking only a 3 unit loss to Vet Jungler. And if we, this is now nerfed to proc at 30 HP, no longer at 35. So we take about 10 HP loss next, and then would be 12. So we are on the pace to take this quite perfectly if we're able to execute it. Still going to be, this is also nice that we managed to pick up this mighty mech right away so that we can start stacking him, giving him that extra HP. That was definitely a high roll on our side against this Nami player here, Gulisoko. Sorry, it's hard to butcher for me this name, who actually managed to come out as a champion of the tournament. Playing around that Space Groove line right there. Also, already you can see on the bench, you can you can start making your units. Did we make our mighty mech? Yes, we did as well. So he's preparing fully for this roll down. But are we going to be going on 4-1? I feel like we're a little bit too poor to be considering this on 4-1. We have only 5 free. We're going to have 25 free rerolls, but we're still going to be needing a lot of raw gold. We're going to utilize this time instead to make items. Probably go with Spirit Visage or Warmogs here. Sterak's is the flashback that was still considered, and then you can just transition the item later on if you find like another stone plate to your Urgot or Fiora. Going to be going there. This allows us to also pick up a tier here so we can make something like the Archangels, which is a fine substitute for the death cap if you're unable to get there. But 2 item frontline is going to be a little tricky, so we're definitely hoping that we are going to be proccing here now our artifacts and find another frontline artifact. Component heist does not line with our spike timing. This is great if you're able to sack and get there. This is a lot of value, but since it got nerfed, hasn't seen that much play. Lucky Gloves is great for your fast 9 lines where you can utilize a lot of items, or you have some like a TG from before. Tiny but deadly, have not seen much success with this augment from anyone. You have to pick a line that can utilize this movement speed, something like the Marauder line, and we have a Hull Crusher can become definitely a frontline item for ourselves to fill out this last slot, and the Varices can become the AD item. Wit's End here, just toss it on someone who can utilize it, right? The best option here, we probably have to flip all and we can just default Lucky Gloves for now. Urv's Grab Bag if you wanted more components, but we do not have... I mean, Voyager's Path is the best one you can make in this line. Otherwise, maybe you can make a Marauder. I'm not too happy about either of these options. Baron's Lair, though, this comp... Initially in the start stages of 4, when you only have the Mighty Mech to be carrying as he's spreading some outs of damage, is a little bit of a stall comp. Therefore, this is definitely a great power spike to pick up at Prismatic tier right now that we're playing around this power spike as well. And our tank item becomes a stone plate, which is amazing. We find... we didn't even find a single copy of Mighty Mech. We just opted to open sell, definitely not wanting to waste any time. We find the Jhin, which is going to be pairing for our Darkstar right now. This is going to be quite fine, as we did not find that 2-star Leona, right? Sorry, the 2-star and Morgana right there. Going to be going with this Darkstar for the execute. That's just a nice flex option we can see. And we can utilize this Varices immediately onto this Aurelion Soul. Are we going to be greeting Death Cap here or like a mana item for our Morgana? I believe that we should be strong enough right now that we are in a spot to be greeting these components. If we did not have this exact cash out and picked up a strong combat augment right away, then we might have been considering the possibility of slamming this Archangels right away. But right now, we are completely fine to be rolling with this. This Makarma one is not going to be that much, and we see that our matchups are not as strong. Here, the rolldown didn't seem to be as epic. Has that Radiant DB Corki, which is immense, but unfortunately, it's all 1-star board for them. Has strong combat augment and hold the line as well, but yeah. For ourselves, now we see the Storm Hex. I believe this is an instant click. We have pretty much hit our board, and we're going to be going with 10 gold. Interesting, very interesting. Perhaps he's valuing that he still wants to hit some units rather than try to, I mean, or just push 9 with this extra 10 gold. I mean, obviously this line truly actually wins out when you are able to get to these higher levels, but we find this 2-star Morgana. Are we going to, and we are picking up the making the death cap, leaving the tier open, I believe, for a mana item, and we can pull this nice. And also, this is nice. Obviously, we have the Thresh's Lantern, so we can pull this Morgana too in right away. That's why we're fielding this Jhin to actually activate the traits. Morgana doesn't provide that much immediate value for ourselves, and we're completely fine to be rolling with this into this 3-star Cho'Gath right here, who has also that artifact. They seem to have cashed out into Lissandra reroll, which in my opinion is a little sus, given that the Lissandra definitely wants to be spiking around stage 3 and actually get this Cho'Gath stacking as hard as possible. And opting that since there are 2 lives, we're not going to be playing this Fiora either, going to value the strength of this 2 Darkstar, making use of the Thresh's Lantern for the Morgana once again, and then the next unit that can be pulled in can be this Fiora. And our Mighty Mech has, the Urgot here has actually quite a bit of HP, so he's living quite a while for us to be pulling it in. That's why we're keeping it on and concentrating the power again into these units rather than slapping it on a 1-star Tom Kench. For ourselves, just looking, I assume, for a mana generating item, Kraken, I think is fine. We just need to be rolling more. We have an option. Nicely spotted. We can make this adaptive helm and just GS for this Jhin that can be also transitioned into Fiora or to something else. This is very nicely worked. This spotted that we can just work this out. This exactly like this way. Not going to be chasing this Urgot 3 from the looks of it. Just going to be looking to push levels. And then we can slot in another unit. The Rust here wouldn't have that much value. So maybe we can look for a Bard and then continue keeping this Morgana on a bench. Now hold the line here with this Shepherd board is going to be quite strong, but thankfully for ourselves they're stuck on the LeBlanc one. LeBlanc is a matchup that is quite scary if you do not have some extra juice for this Mighty Mech. You could see he already fell through to the LeBlanc's scaling. She has the possibility to actually burst through this single solo frontline power of the Mighty Mech. Pick up another Fiora, going to be slotting in the Fiora to get some Omnivamp on our board, and opting to sell the Karma pair right there, just to make this Fiora 2 and transition the Giant Slayer only to her. So still valuing the items on the Urgot here rather than the Fiora 2, which is another interesting observation that could be made. We have this Mordekaiser that I'm not sure we're going to be pulling in. We find a Blitzcrank, so how are we going to be filling up the slots? Continue rolling for our Karma. Find the Karma too, and now are we transitioning the items? Okay, we are transitioning in the end the items to the Fiora. Keep the Thresh's Lantern on the Urgot as he's a little bit safer in this line against a Vet Jungler Xayah board. Has gotten to that Jhin, but still just simply lacking in the frontline presence, cannot burst through down. Xayah does need that ramp to get through this Mighty Mech a little bit longer. That's why sometimes doubling down on frontline items in that line is quite strong. You just need so many items actually for this line. Find a GA that's going to help the Fiora live, and probably Hull Crusher is going to be more value, I would assume. No, going for the raw stats of this Vit, and she does auto attack quite a bit, so yes, it's fine, and this also helps to keep our Urgot alive a little bit longer to gain the value from the Thresh's Lantern, even though we should buy another unit here just to pull in something, and then, well, but the mechanic sell, so perhaps, I mean, okay, make 20 there, make the extra gold. You never know if it's going to be valuable if you're going to be pushing level 10. Then it's counterintuitive here that we're going to be rolling. You can see this was a Xayah contest as well. The acceleration hex there for the Xayah, though, is absolutely insane of a pickup. And let's see how we fare against this matchup. They have that Blitzcrank. We do not have any CC immunity on our Mighty Mech. That's why something like the Silverman Dawn Silvermare's is quite good of an artifact. But the Blitz does not exactly fully punch back the Mighty Mech. However, the matchup did get quite close. You can see this is how Xayah, when it outscales you, when it has that Blitzcrank right there to compete, you are getting in a little bit of a problems. But definitely I can see how Thresh's Lantern is so good in this line. You have so many units you can be flexing, and just keeping this Morgana on the bench, still getting her online as a backup tank is quite good, especially since Tom's Kench can also be quite contested of a unit. When he prints himself 2-star, that's quite neat. Then we're going to be slotting in this Morgana route. This new one is just, you know, a warm body to be tossing in, I would assume. Now that we have the 2-star Kench or 2-star Morgana, we're going to be transitioning the items to her and keeping our weak side safe that way, since our Mighty Mech is stuck in position there to continue his scaling, opting to do that rather than transitioning something like this Terax to another unit. Against our champ here, we are picking up a win, as Nami has a potential to like splash on some of your units, but we have just so much HP on our board. Everything is upgraded. It's not that big of a threat. this Zaya matchup, it seems to be the one that we have to be worrying most about, and we are positioning in a way to maybe get this Fiora to wrap, going for the last second swap here. Instead, we are fighting the Ghost fight. They know that we are, well, we could just go for a way where we swap, for example, the Mighty Mech and just have like a Morgana tossed back if we wanted to, but then we risk the burst of not getting the precious Lantern value. Nonetheless, he's still going to continue greeding. We are on 2 lives, did not need to get too fancy if it's working, and against Ghostfight it worked quite fine, so let's see how we are going to be faring against the real. Does not have the most optimal itemization for the Jhin, but they have that Jhin too now, so this is definitely going to be a pure test of how we manage to reach critical mass here. Looking at the other fight constantly as well, and let's see, the Zaya does seem to get there. The Blitzcrank ult came in a little late, later it seems, that we managed to pop him maybe a little bit early on, but nonetheless, does get a second ult, but now we are obviously up the item value. We have 2-star our board, so we are in a quite of a strong position. Managed to kill off the weaker units as well. Now going with a double death cap build, as Varus is generically good artifact because playing around, but it also has the use for your AD item holders, and it's just a little, the fights accelerate in the later stages of the game, so the upfront power from the death cap is just a little simply more. And against the Space Group board, as we saw, they are lacking in a single target department, and with the Morgana being there as a valuable secondary tank, especially with these extra HP from the Skull Crusher and the Warmog, she is definitely very, very strong of a unit. We are not considering pulling in a Blitzcrank, we're still valuing just the value from the Nunu here. If he gets an ult off, it's immense value, but I'm not exactly sure he has a amount of HP. He got half HP right there. Against the Ghost fight, as we expect, we should not have that much problem, even though Blitzcrank did seem to lock onto our Aurelion Soul. Just not that much power in them. Now considering, well, we could toss in Bard to maybe try to steal the Elder Dragon. I guess that's the move, to reduce the DPS on our board. Should not have that much problem against the Elder Dragon, and just maybe we hit the Elder Dragon. Did not seem to hit the Elder Dragon. Did not see that many Elder Dragons this weekend, unfortunately. Also not opting to drop out of the Surgot, still opting to be playing around 6 Mighty Mech. A lot of lines, a lot of times these lines just simply drop out of it. We pick up a TG. Alright, that's fine. Then we have a fierce justification to actually have this unit on our board. Now, it's 2 Blitzcranks that we're facing here from Sappho. Also has made it to that level 10. Bronze for life damage jump is definitely going to be a lot of value on there. Can meet a GPS check. The Fiora is putting in a lot of work against this front line, but it's simply not enough. With this worked away Jax, he definitely was in a strong position to be playing around there. So now that we have this Bard too, are we considering potentially swap? Because we could just move these Karma items onto him. I believe it should be a little bit stronger. Going to be giving up on Tahm Kench instead, seeing that these brawlers perhaps do not provide that much value. Transitioning the items to the Bard. Is this going to be a stronger board for ourselves? Still, they're going to be gaining a lot of sniper value once this Mighty Mech gets tossed back. Fiora is living and killing off the weaker units, and now that she made it to the Jax, we got the true damage through the stone plates, and still a close fight, but the Zaya recall, the last one does not happen. She does not have time, and we're picking up a win. Nicely executed game by Hypno, displaying why he earned that world slot from the EMEA region. Hopefully you gain some insights on how you can approach this line even when not playing around Anima, and it's something to keep in back of your mind. Have those Mighty Mech items and have all these extra rods and enough gold to hard stabilize on level 8, and then you can reach this max cap that we just saw. And obviously any kind of extra juice that you can get through artifacts in this line works incredibly, as same goes for Yasuo hexes. I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one.